Imagine surviving 100 days as a giraffe, the tallest animal in the world. Throughout your journey, you'll encounter unique predators and create dependable alliances. Can I save the savannah from complete destruction? Stay tuned to find out. On day 1, I spawned in as a baby giraffe. I had 8 hearts and was surrounded by my giraffe herd.
Good morning, my son. Are you ready for our family trip to the watering hole with your brother?
Watering hole? Wait, are you supposed to be my mom?
Guys, we gotta get out of here now. Where's Dad?
He left for work. What's happening?
Are you supposed to be my brother? What's going on? Wait, who's that up there? On top of a giant rock in front of my giraffe herd stood a giant lion. However, it did not look normal.
All will die who trespass in Caesar's savannah.
After the giant lion spoke, a lot more lions started to march in. Whoa, where are they all coming from? Go away, lions!
We're not going anywhere, kid. Caesar's orders are final.
All of a sudden, the lions came down and started attacking. My brother sprung into action and started fighting back. My mother then went in to help my brother against the lions. They were successfully holding them back. However, the giant lion swept in and killed my mom. What am I supposed to do? I have no way to fight back. I decided to make a run for it, as this was too difficult a task as a baby giraffe. The remaining lions then cornered my brother into a cage and successfully captured him. The giant lion then walked up to the cage to talk to the other lions.
Find that other giraffe. Bring this one to Caesar. Split the remains amongst yourselves. Go, now!
The smaller lions agreed to the task and started moving out. Eventually, I had gotten away and started to gather some wood so I could craft some stone tools. However, all that running started building up an appetite. So I started looking for food and eventually found some rabbits. After cooking up the food, I continued trekking through the savannah until I had stumbled across my first village. It seemed to be a monkey village, and I walked up to one of the monkeys.
Whoa, slow down, little giraffe. Are you all right?
No, there's some weird lions after me. They killed my mom and kidnapped my brother. I need to avenge them.
Now, child. You're far too young and weak to take on a pride of lions. What's your name, little giraffe?
The name's Forrest. What's yours?
I'm Rafiki, the village chief. Welcome. Sorry to hear about your family. Did the lions say why they were here?
The big lion said we were trespassing Caesar's savannah. I'm not really sure what that meant.
Caesar. That's not a good sign. We can give you a place to live temporarily. Follow me.
Rafiki, the village chief, then led me to an empty house.
This home has an extra bed for you. Let me know if you need anything else, little giraffe.
Thanks, Rafiki. I appreciate the help. I then went inside the home, placed down a crafting table and furnace, and decided it'd be a good idea to go mining. So after a bit of exploring, I found myself a cave, went down and mined myself a bunch of iron and coal. I then returned home, smelted up the iron, and crafted myself iron tools and a shield. I then heard a strange noise and stepped outside to investigate. What's that sound? What's going on, Rafiki?
It's the Warhorn. We're under attack.
Just outside the village, the infected lions had tracked me down and were getting ready to invade the village. Rafiki and I then ran over and saw them just outside.
This village is being conquered in the name of Emperor Caesar. Surrender or face death.
That's them. Those are the same lions that killed my mom.
Run away, little ones. We must evacuate the village. Little giraffe, we must flee. We cannot take them on.
I have to try and fight, Rafiki. I can't run away again. In an attempt to save the village, I ran forward to fight the infected lions, but was quickly overwhelmed by too many of them at once. Rafiki and I were forced to flee, and the rest of the monkey villagers ran away as well. The infected lions continued to invade the village, while Rafiki and I made our escape. We ran as far as we could until we were a safe distance away.
Thankfully, we escaped. Looks like Caesar has caused quite a ruckus.
Who is Caesar, and how do we even find him?
It's complicated. We were once part of the same village long ago. I can tell you more tomorrow. Let's get some rest.
So after a tiring day, Rafiki and I went to sleep. On the morning of day 3, I went up to Rafiki to talk to him about future plans. He agreed to help get materials to start getting a base built, as we'd need some kind of shelter. I also started on gathering a bunch of wooden materials to build our base. I also gathered a bunch of different kinds of stone, and eventually Rafiki came back with a bunch of building materials. Now that we had plenty of materials, we began chopping down the surrounding trees and terraforming the landscape so we'd have plenty of room to build our base. After laying a foundation, Rafiki and I started building up a savannah-style base. I focused on building the walls while Rafiki did the roof, and eventually our base was complete. Rafiki had even decorated the inside with some furniture, and now that we had some shelter, it was time for me to get an upgrade. Nice job, Rafiki. This base should do the trick. I then told Rafiki I was gonna go do some mining, and after a little bit of traveling, I found another cave. I started making my way down the cave and mined myself plenty of iron and coal. I then started smelting it all up and crafted myself full iron armor and a bucket. I then returned back to the base and remembered there was one thing we were missing. We still need proper beds, Rafiki. I wasn't able to get any in time before the lion invasion.
I know where a sheep herd is nearby. We'll need to be careful, though, since the rams protect them. Let's go!
So, following Rafiki's lead, we started traveling to find a herd of sheep. After traveling for a bit and climbing up a small hill, we had eventually found a herd of sheep. So I started shearing the sheep for some wool, but then started getting attacked by rams. I got knocked into the air and broke my fall with a water bucket. Rafiki and I were forced to run away from the rams and ran all the way back to our base.
We're lucky we made it out alive. Did you get enough?
Don't worry, Rafiki, I got plenty. So with the wool I got from the sheep, I crafted ourselves 2 beds and went to sleep for the night. On the morning of day 6, there was a new challenge ahead. I assigned Rafiki the task of building us some farms and decided I'd better go hunting for some food in the meantime so I wouldn't starve. So after traveling to find some animals to hunt, I eventually ran into some gazelles. I managed to sneak up on the first few, but gazelles are pretty quick animals. I continued chasing one until it started running into a cave. Hey, where are you going? Get back here. Is this an underground base? I carefully started walking up to the strange structure, and I entered a strange room. It appeared to be a secret lab. There was a variety of potions in the brewing stands, and infectious syringes in the chests. I then noticed a lectern with a book in it. The book read,
Day 3 of experiments. I've discovered a serum that can make animals perfect. It's heavily untested right now, but I've mixed it into the food we trained with the lions to test its strength. And one lion in particular has doubled in size. If I can refine this, I may change the landscape of the savannah forever, but I'll have to keep this a secret for now.
After reading about Caesar testing the serum on the lions, I realized the book was written by Caesar himself. I then kept exploring the abandoned lab for any more clues about Caesar's whereabouts. I ended up finding a speed potion, but then ran into some cave spiders. I managed to take them both down and found some instant health potions. I also took some of the brewing stands from the lab and continued down a flight of stairs. The room I had entered was much larger than the other ones, and there was massive cobwebs in the corners. At the back of the room was a broken glass chamber, and before I knew it, a giant spider came down from the ceiling. It started shooting webs, and I drank my speed potion. The battle had begun between me and the infected spider. I tried keeping my distance, and blocked its attack and stunned the spider. It allowed me an opening to do some big damage, and I had defeated the infected spider. I looked for more clues around the room, and saw a lectern by one of the tables. I opened the book and it read,
Day 5 experiments. The serum worked. My creation lives. I've extended testing to a spider, and the results are incredible. This one will be my pet.
After I finished reading about Caesar's lab experiment, I understood what I had defeated was Caesar's abandoned pet. After fully exploring the lab, I decided to head back to base. I had learned more about Caesar, but by putting myself in danger. When I went inside, I noticed Rafiki was outside working on some farms. So I went outside to tell him what had happened.
Welcome home, little giraffe. Where have you been?
I found an abandoned lab and fought a giant spider. I think it belonged to Caesar. Look at this book.
This is Caesar's Journal of Experiments. This explains why those lions looked infected.
I don't think those are lions anymore, Rafiki. They've been mutated by Caesar's experiments. Rafiki agreed that we should find out more about Caesar, but we'd need to get stronger to stand any chance. So on the morning of day 11, I had a few goals in mind. I returned back to the hill where the sheep were and decided to bring a couple back to our base. I then realized I needed to build ourselves some animal pens. So I walled off an area for the sheep and made sure to add a roof to protect them from the weather. After capping off the roof, the sheep pens were complete. I then placed down the brewing stands I had got for later and went back out the next day and found a cave. I went down to do some mining, got some emeralds, lapis, gold, and eventually found a much deeper part of the cave and mined myself a bunch of diamonds. I then returned back to base and crafted myself a full set of diamond tools. Hey Rafiki, do you have any idea how we can find Caesar? I've finally got myself some diamond tools.
Unfortunately, I can't. Our best bet will be to keep looking for his labs throughout the savannah.
Sounds like a lot of walking.
Yes, which is why I'll stay here to maintain the farms. I'm too old old to be doing that much running around.
With the help of Rafiki tending the farms, I grabbed some wheat out of the chest and crafted myself some bread. With plenty of food for the next day, I went to sleep, and on the morning of day 12, I was ready to go looking for some labs. However, I was stopped by Rafiki at the door.
Forrest, do you hear that?
Are those hyenas? Rafiki and I ran outside to investigate and were greeted by a pack of hyenas.
I see fresh meats moved into our part of the savannah.
We won't go down without a fight.
The pack of hyenas leapt forward and started attacking Rafiki and I. I used my diamond axe to attack the hyenas, and one by one we took them all down. Rafiki, are you alright?
I should be. I could use some tribal leaves, though.
What are those?
They can be crafted from the rare baobab trees. You'll have to search for those near the savannah coastline. Bring the baobab trees and bamboo here, and I can teach you how to make them.
So with directions from Rafiki on how to find these leaves, I started traveling to try and find the coast. After traveling for a while, in the fog, a giant tree came into my view. When I got a closer look, it was a massive baobab tree surrounded in bamboo. I went down the hill and approached the tree and collected myself a bunch of bamboo. I then realized the branches around the baobab tree created a staircase up to the top of the tree. So I started parkouring up the tree branches to get to the top. After a while of jumping from branch to branch, I finally reached the top. I made sure to bring a pair of shears and started collecting a ton of baobab leaves. Eventually, my pair of shears broke, so I went back down the baobab tree and returned back to base with the materials.
Did you find a baobab tree?
In fact, I did. I've got the baobab leaves and the bamboo like you asked.
Great! Now, let me show you how to make my old family recipe.
So, using item frames in the wall, Rafiki showed me how to craft tribal leaves. Using 2 bamboo and 3 baobab leaves, turned into tribal leaves. After giving one to Rafiki, I tried one for myself and ended up evolving into an even bigger giraffe. I now had 15 hearts and acquired a kick ability. I tried eating more but didn't get any bigger, but noticed it gave me regeneration and absorption, similar to a golden apple.
You've nearly doubled in size. The leaves have touched your soul.
Those tribal leaves worked really well. Thanks, Rafiki. With the tribal leaves and my newfound ability, I decided to go out and start searching for more laboratories. And it wasn't long until I ran into a herd of zebras.
Hey, you lost?
Just exploring. I'm trying to find some laboratories around the savannah.
Laboratories? I think I've seen 1 or 2 around here.
Really? Where?
I can show you. All you gotta do is help us out with our rhino problem first. They've been picking on us recently.
I sure can. Just lead the way.
Hey, great. Follow me.
It sounded like a fair exchange, so I followed the zebra to go find these rhinos. And it wasn't long until I was facing them. I tested my kick ability, which sent the rhinos flying. The rhinos also flung me into the air, doing a ton of damage. So I ate tribal leaves to get my health back. After taking out a few with the zebra, there was only a couple left and we managed to take the rest out.
Thanks for the help, tall one. Now those rhinos won't bother us anymore. Follow me, I'll show you to the lab.
Sounds good to me. Now that I had helped out the zebra with the rhino problem, it wasn't long till we found the giant lab. This one was above ground, but also looked abandoned.
Here we are. Be careful in there, though. I've heard rumors Caesar put traps everywhere in these things.
Really? I didn't have that problem with the first one. The zebra then went back to his herd, and I now had a new lab to explore. I entered the front door and was immediately greeted by lab rats. After getting poisoned, I managed to take them both out, but while looking at the glass chamber, I stepped on a pressure plate, triggering TNT in the ground. Whoa, I guess this place does have traps. I then walked through a doorway and got hit by a fireball. You're joking, right? After getting hit by a second trap, I started to walk a bit more slowly. I noticed a room on my right side, but decided to go up the stairs instead. So I carefully made my way up. However, as I was investigating the brewing area, I fell into a fall trap, causing me to fall back to the first floor. But I had also fallen into a new room. And of course, I found another trap. After destroying the trap, I looked around the room, and in the back, I found another book of Caesar's experiments. The book read,
This giraffe is getting on my nerves, constantly telling me these experiments are immoral. I've already lost my own family once, and if anything, the entire savannah should feel what I've felt. I'll show those doubters. I will reign supreme over a superior savannah as Emperor Caesar.
After reading the book, I was surprised to find out a giraffe was involved. I needed to know more and started investigating the second floor again. In the back of the room, I found another book. This one being a bit shorter. It read,
I've grown to hate this job. It was great at the start, but Caesar is obsessed with this mutation serum. He's creating monsters. I thought we were helping the savannah. I left Geraldina and Gerald Jr. for this job, but I have to finish what I started.
After finishing reading the book, I was in shock. Gerald, is this my father? There was only one way for me to find out. I needed to leave the lab and start looking for more. However, when I ran outside the lab, I was greeted by an infected gorilla.
You dare enter Caesar's lab?
No, I was just visiting.
Liar!
The infected gorilla started to attack me. I had no choice but to fight back. After eating food, I went back in to fight the infected gorilla and continued using my kick ability till the gorilla slammed down and hit me really hard.
Get away from my son!
I was forced to run away, but then someone came in the way and defeated the infected gorilla. Thank you for saving me. Wait, did you say son earlier?
Son, it's me, Gerald. You don't recognize me?
Gerald? Where have you been? Mom is dead and my brother's been captured.
I know, and I'm sorry. I can explain everything later, but we gotta get out of the open. Where's your camp?
Okay, I can show you. Follow me. So after being reunited with Gerald, I led him all the way back to my base.
Is the one with the glasses your brother?
This is my father, Gerald. Gerald, meet Rafiki. He's the one who helped me survive the lion invasion.
Nice to meet you. Do you have any room for a third roommate? Unfortunately, we don't have much room. We'll need to expand the house. Jeez, that's okay. I could keep a lookout while you guys build.
Sounds all right to me.
I'll go get materials. You start on getting the foundation made.
So with the proposition of a new roommate, Rafiki went out to get materials for the build while I started working on the foundation. Rafiki had returned back to the base with the materials. I then continued with the base expansion, finishing up the walls and the roof. After adding the second wing, Gerald's room was complete. Hey Gerald, your room is finished. I wanted to ask.
Good on you, son. Let's talk in the morning. I'm frazzled. Good night.
Okay, good night. So with Gerald hastily going to sleep, I decided to go to bed. On the morning of day 34, I noticed Gerald's room was empty. So I went to go talk to Rafiki. Good morning, Rafiki. Where's my father?
I saw him leave the house early this morning. He mentioned he was going for a frolic.
You mean a walk? Where did he...
Sounds like he didn't make it very far.
With the sound of Gerald's scream, Rafiki and I rushed to find where he was. And it wasn't long till I noticed him up in a tree. However, he wasn't alone. He was surrounded by a group of infected cheetahs.
Jesus! Help!
Cheetahs? They're infected too. The cheetahs turned and noticed both me and Rafiki, and the battle had begun. Using my kick ability, I managed to take most of them out, and Rafiki defeated a few as well. And after defeating the cheetahs, I had evolved into my adult form. I now had 20 hearts and a new dash ability. When I used it, it gave me speed too, so I can move around a lot quicker. Gerald, are you all right?
Thanks to you, I am. Whoa, you're as tall as me now. You're all grown up, son. Goodness, you've doubled in size again.
Looks like it. Say, Gerald, where were you going?
Well, before I ran into those cheetahs, I was just going for a frolic so I could think.
Okay. Well, be careful wandering far off on your own. It's dangerous out here in the savannah. After seeing how clumsy Gerald could get, I told Rafiki to lead him back to base. After that, I decided it was time for an upgrade. So I looked around until I found a new cave. This cave was in the back of an abandoned lion's den, though. Luckily, there were no lions to be found, so using a water bucket, I carefully made my way down. I managed to mine a bunch of gold, lapis, redstone, and a bunch of diamonds. Using the diamonds I mined, I crafted myself full diamond armor. Once I had crafted full diamond armor, I decided to return back to the surface and started making my way back to base. However, on the way back, I noticed something in the distance.
Help! There's something chasing me!
It was an elephant being chased by something. Whoa, slow down there. What's after you?
It's a huge, scary monster.
Where?
He was right behind me.
At first, I didn't know what the elephant was talking about. I then noticed there was a rat on the ground. Oh, it's just a lab rat. Wait, where did you find that?
It's scary, okay? I don't know where my herd is. Please help me.
Well, don't worry. I guess I can help you out. So with one quick kick, I defeated the lab rat for the scared elephant.
Thank you. Thank you, I'm saved.
No problem. What's your name?
I'm Dumbo. What's your name?
Well, that explains a lot. The name's Forrest.
My herd was being attacked and I was chased into a cave. I was hiding in a strange room from the hyena, and before I knew it, a mouse jumped out and I ran until I was here.
Well, your herd is most likely okay. How about we team up? I'll help you find your herd and you point out which cave you were at.
Sounds like a fair exchange. Thank you, Forrest.
Sure. Now, lead the way. It looked like luck was in my favor, as this elephant seemed to have just come from the lab I was looking for. So I continued following Dumbo the elephant until we arrived at the cave.
Here it is. Be careful, there's lots of mice down there.
Don't worry, Dumbo, I will. Now, I might have an idea of where your herd is. Now that I had the location of the lab, I decided to help Dumbo the elephant find his herd first. I had a feeling that they'd be near a water hole, so I headed to the nearest one I knew of, and sure enough, there they were.
Thanks for finding my herd, Forrest. Good luck with your adventure.
So after thanking thanking Dumbo and telling him to be careful, I returned to base to drop off my mining materials. After dropping everything off and getting ready to leave again, Rafiki came running into my room.
The hyenas have returned. They're outside.
I followed Rafiki outside, and sure enough, there was more hyenas.
Those aren't normal hyenas.
Gerald was right, and they were actually infected hyenas this time. They did a lot more damage and poisoned us on every hit. This time, they got me a lot more low on HP, and I had to back up and eat food multiple times. But luckily, we defeated them all. I then ran back inside to quickly make an enchantment table and craft some baobab leaves. I then went ahead and quickly enchanted my tools and armor. On the morning of day 45, I started traveling out back to the tech lab, and eventually reached the start of the cave. I was definitely gonna be a lot more cautious entering this one, knowing there could be traps. After a couple more twists and turns, I reached the lab. In the first room, I was greeted by the lab rats that chased down Dumbo. With a couple kicks, I defeated them pretty easily, and found what seemed to be an obvious trap. I managed to easily parkour over it, entered one of the rooms, and found myself a lab key. After taking it, I also yoinked some bookshelves, did some more parkour, and found myself another one of Caesar's experiment books. The book read,
Day 72, experiments. We've ran out of resources, so we'll need to begin trading with the poachers. The poachers have asked me to capture specific animals in return for the resources I need. We've also captured a group of poachers who stepped too far into my domain. I've decided to conduct human trials on them, and the results are astounding!
After reading the book about the poachers, I entered another room and found what looked like Caesar's failed experiments on the poachers. They were all mutated and turned into zombies, and luckily pretty easy to defeat. Caesar had been clearly taking his experiments too far, and I was gonna get to the bottom of it. However, on my way home, I ended up finding a massive volcano. I began climbing up the volcano and reached the top to fight blazes and magma cubes. I managed to get myself a bunch of blaze rods and found a bunch of nether wart and soul sand. After collecting a bunch of nether materials, I returned back to base and went to sleep. However, on the morning of day 52, I noticed someone was missing. Gerald? I then ran outside to see if Rafiki was with Gerald. Rafiki, have you seen Gerald?
I haven't. Thought he was still asleep.
Hold on, let me check his room. I then went into Gerald's room and noticed a book on one of the tables. I picked it up and it read,
To my son, I need to do the right thing. I can't abandon my responsibilities like how I was abandoned by my best friend. You've proven strong enough to fend for yourself, and if anyone's going to put an end to Caesar, it's gotta be me.
After reading Gerald's note to me, I had a bad feeling he was putting himself in serious danger. So I went ahead and brewed myself fire resistance and strength potions, and decided to embark on a journey to try and find Gerald. While traveling near the water hole, I saw an alligator running away from something.
Help me!
When I looked behind it, I saw an infected hippo. It immediately started to attack me, so I used my kick ability to knock it back. It did a lot of damage and poisoned me, so I made sure to keep my distance and use tribal leaves to heal up. After a few more kicks, I defeated the infected hippo.
Thanks for saving my life, man. If it weren't for you, I'd be a handbag right now.
Don't sweat it. Say, I'm looking for my father. Have you seen a giraffe with glasses run by?
No, I didn't, but I did see a giraffe in a cage being carried by some lions go by earlier.
That's gotta be my brother. Which way did you see them go?
Somewhere past that boulder over there. They seem to be in a hurry.
Thanks, Crocodile. Gotta go. See you in a while, Crocodile.
Yeah, see you in a while. Wait! I'm an alligator!
So with a tip from the alligator, I started heading in the direction he pointed out where the giraffe was captured. After a bit of traveling, I found a burning village. Not only that, but there were infected hippos all over the muddy pond. It seemed like Caesar and his lions had gotten to this village too. Realizing I needed to fight, I potted a strength potion and started taking out the infected hippos one by one. After a while, I had finally defeated the last infected hippo. With no villagers to be seen, I heard a voice coming from on top of a tree. When I looked over, I realized it was a toucan. A toucan? What are you doing here?
The name's Zazu, and yes, I'm a toucan. You put up a great fight against those mutants. I could use your help.
Nice to meet you, Zazu. I'm Forrest. I also need help looking for my brother and father. Did you see any giraffes pass by here?
Unfortunately, I didn't. But I did follow the lions that destroyed my village. They led me to a giant lab.
You did? If you could lead me there, that'd be great. I need to save my father and brother.
If you're looking to infiltrate it, you'll need to be careful. That's where all those infected lions hang out.
That won't be a problem. I can handle them.
If you can help me repair the village first, I'll show you where it is.
I guess the village is small enough to do some quick repairs, but we gotta hurry once I'm finished.
Deal.
So with Zazu agreeing that he'd show me where the lab was if I repaired the village, I immediately got to work collecting a bunch of materials and putting out all the fires across the village homes. So one by one, I started repairing the village houses. Most of them had their roofs completely torn off, but after a while, I managed to repair the rest of the homes. And just like that, the repairs were complete. The next morning, I went to Zazu to have him start leading me to the lab. He told me to follow him and started flying. So we started traveling towards the lab. After about a day of travel, we approached a hill right next to a giant lab. And this lab did not look abandoned. So we made sure we were careful to not get spotted.
This is it. They keep it locked up, so you'll need a key to get in.
I found one of those in the lab I was just at.
Did you hear that? Someone's coming out.
After Zazu and I heard a noise from the lab, we peeked over the hill to see what was going on. Surely enough, there were 2 infected lions standing guard of the front door. The door had opened and it was Caesar. However, he was accompanied by 3 infected gorillas and Scar, the giant mutated lion. Caesar then said something to Scar that I couldn't quite make out and left the scene with his bodyguards. And Scar went back inside the lab. In that moment, I had an idea. It looks like Caesar just left, and Scar seems to be the only one there now. Can you follow Caesar, Zazu? I need to infiltrate that lab.
Got it. I'll make sure to be stealthy.
Thanks, Zazu. We'll meet back up at your village later. So, with Zazu flying off to follow Caesar, I dashed down the hill to confront the mutated lions. Using my kick ability, I took them both out. I then climbed up the stairs and using my lab key, unlocked the door. Once the door had opened, I saw Scar at the back of the lab.
So this is the little twerp digging around in places he doesn't belong.
You killed my mother and kidnapped my brother. Where is he?
Like I'd ever tell you.
The door then shut behind me and I was stuck inside with Scar. I now had no choice but to fight as Scar charged forward. I used my kick ability to knock Scar back, but then got hit by a poison attack. I ate some tribal leaves to regen, and Scar summoned in minions to attack me. Poisonous clouds were surrounding me, so I knocked back Scar and his minions to regenerate my health. I went back in, kicking Scar as much as I could, and with one more kick, I defeated Scar. I also gained a ton of levels, and at the back of the lab, found a book. It was one of Caesar's journals, and it read,
Day 97, experiments. I've had enough of Gerald's complaints. He helped me create the mutation serum, and now he's worried about it affecting his family's safety. If he cares so much about his family, let's see if he'll submit once I've kidnapped them.
After reading about Caesar ordering the kidnapping of my family, I ran out of the lab to go back to the village to meet up with Zazu. After a bit of travel, I returned back to the village. However, Zazu was nowhere to be seen. So I waited about a day to see if he'd return, but there was no sign of Zazu for the whole day. Eventually, I decided to take things into my own hands. I decided it'd be a good idea to return back to base and give myself a bit of an upgrade. I built myself an enchantment station, unenchanted and repaired all my diamond armor, and enchanted all my armor again with high levels of protection. I also crafted myself a bunch more tribal leaves and restocked on potions. After all that, I ran into Rafiki.
Hey, Forrest, where have you been?
Hey Rafiki, I just got back from one of Caesar's tech labs. I managed to take down Scar.
That's great news. And what about Caesar?
It's a long story. I made friends with a toucan who's tracking him. I have a feeling he might be in trouble though.
What do you plan on doing?
I'll need to track him down. Any ideas on how I can do that?
It'll be tough, but I can reunite with my villagers and have them help.
Any help would be great. Thanks, Rafiki. So with Rafiki leading the way, we left the base to go searching for his monkeys. And after a bit of travel, we found another baobab tree. And so Rafiki and I started parkouring up the leaves of the baobab tree. We eventually made it to the top, where there was an entire monkey village. Rafiki's villagers were more than safe up here. And so Rafiki and I went to go talk to some of the monkeys.
Little ones, I'm glad you're all safe when I ask for your help.
Great, we need your help looking for a toucan named Zazu. He's most likely near a tech lab that could be underground. Thanks for the help. With the monkeys agreeing to help, they quickly went to work to try and track down Zazu. So Rafiki and I waited for about a day on top of the baobab tree, and eventually the monkeys had returned.
Welcome back, little one. Did you find anything? That's great news. He found a lab and says he can lead us to it.
That's great. Let's get moving then. So with the monkeys leading the way, Rafiki and I followed them until we eventually found a ravine. Inside the ravine, however, was one of Caesar's labs. Another underground lab? This one looks different than the others.
He says he saw a toucan go inside when he found it.
That's gotta be Zazu. Rafiki, you stay out here. I'm gonna go inside and make sure Zazu's safe. So I entered Caesar's lab, but found myself inside of a maze. After reaching multiple dead ends, I finally found an actual room. However, it was filled with zombified poachers, and I used my kick ability to take them all out. I then looted some of the potions, but realized the room was empty. After navigating the maze some more, I found another room, and I was greeted by a bunch of infected hyenas. I then kicked them down one by one, and noticed there was a bunch of testing chambers around. But I then noticed a book on the desk. I picked it up, and it was Caesar's experiment book, which read,
Day 77, experiments. The mutation serum is ready for mass production. With my expanding army of mutated animals, I can now create the Serum Mega Factory. I'll be building it in the perfect location to get back at Gerald, right on his doorstep.
After finishing reading about Caesar's Mega Factory, I knew I needed to find this factory. However, while trying to get out of the maze, I found another room. There was more infected hyenas guarding it, so I defeated them all and went inside to find Gerald. Gerald, how did you get captured?
Forrest, it's me, your brother, Gerald Jr. I can't believe you found me. They've moved me around a few times, but luckily I'm okay.
Brother, you look just like Dad. Here, let me break you out of there. So using my pickaxe, I broke the glass to break out Gerald Jr. But only shortly after breaking the glass, we started to hear sirens.
We need to get out of here. Guards will be coming in fast. Follow me. I know the way out.
Before leaving the room to follow Gerald Jr., I noticed there was a mutation syringe, so I took it before we left. So Gerald Jr. and I started running out of the maze as fast as we could, and ran into some more infected hyenas. And after reaching a dead end, I had found Zazu. Zazu? We gotta get out of here. Guards are coming.
Guards? Sorry, I got lost in the maze.
And so with alarms blaring and guards on our tail, Zazu, Gerald Jr. and I ran out of the maze and met back up with Rafiki outside. Rafiki then sent the monkey back to his village, and we started traveling back to Zazu's village. And eventually we made it back. That was a close one. Sorry about putting you in that much danger, Zazu.
Danger? That was fun. I'd do it again.
Well, if you ever need anything, Zazu, let us know. Thanks for all your help.
Don't sweat it. I'll be staying here for now. Good luck against Caesar.
Bye, Zazu. So with Gerald Jr., I started bringing him back to my base. And after returning to base, I wanted to give him his own room, so I started to expand it. This time I added another layer to the base. And after finishing placing down the roof, the expansion was complete. And Gerald Jr. now had his own room. To take down Caesar, I knew I would need to get stronger, so I had an idea. I used the mutation syringe I found in his lab and nearly doubled in size again. I now had 30 hearts, a new super kick ability, an even faster dash, and a new screech ability.
Whoa! You're huge now!
Well, I took a risk and it paid off. I needed to get stronger to be able to take down Caesar.
That's incredible!
Even with this newfound strength, I won't be able to take down this factory alone. I'll need a lot of help, so I have an idea.
What is it?
To recruit the animals from the savannah to help us. Caesar created a mega factory and plans on mass producing the mutation serum. We'll need all the help we can get.
Which kind of animals?
I'll recruit the elephants since I know where they are. Gerald Jr., I'll need you to recruit the zebras, and Rafiki, you'll recruit the monkeys.
Sounds like a solid plan.
Based on the book Caesar left behind, I know exactly where the factory is. Once we've recruited the animals we need, we'll meet up 100 meters south of Caesar's factory to set up camp.
Got it. We've got no time to waste. Let's get moving so we can save our father and get rid of Caesar.
So with a tall task ahead of us, we went our separate ways to go recruit the animals of the savannah. Rafiki went over to the Baobab village to recruit the monkeys. Gerald Jr. went to the ocean side to recruit the zebras. And I traveled over to the watering hole to go recruit the elephants. Dumbo, I wanted to ask you for a favor. Could you convince your herd to come help me take down Caesar's factory?
Forrest, you've gotten even taller. I do owe you one after saving me from that mouse. Consider it done.
Perfect. Thanks, Dumbo. So once Dumbo had convinced his herd, the elephants followed me to head over to Caesar's factory. However, I knew I was approaching the factory's location when I was stopped by a ton of infected cheetahs. It was a perfect time for me to test my super kick and screech ability, and I easily took down all the infected cheetahs. Now that the coast was clear, I led in the elephants, and it wasn't that much longer till Gerald Jr. showed up with the zebras. And at sunset, Rafiki showed up with his monkeys. We now had an army of savannah animals ready to take take on Caesar's factory.
Looks like you've all made it. The factory is quite large, and there's lots of Caesar's henchmen guarding it. So, Gerald Jr., I'll need your help gathering materials for war camps. Rafiki, you keep a lookout so we don't get ambushed.
Roger that, Captain. I'll keep a close eye on the factory.
So after sending out Gerald Jr. to get supplies, I started heading back to base to get materials we would need to invade his factory. I gathered up all the brewing stands, grabbed the lab key that I used, got a bunch of wool from my sheep, and returned to one of the baobab trees I'd found before. I gathered a bunch of bamboo and baobab leaves, and crafted a ton of tribal leaves for my army. With all the materials gathered up, I returned back to the animals. And Gerald Jr. gave me all the materials he had gathered for the war tents. So I got to work on building them. I made sure to make 3 separate war tents for all 3 types of animals we had, and making sure to put the essential war supplies in each one. And after a while, the tents were complete.
All right, team, with the tents complete, we're now gonna commence training.
So with 2 practice dummies built, the zebras, elephants, and monkeys practiced their attacks. Now that the training was complete, I brewed our army splash potions of strength and speed. Last but not least, I handed out a bunch of tribal leaves to every one of our army members. And so we waited for nightfall to start the invasion.
Listen up, team. We're doing this to save the savannah from Caesar's tyranny. On my mark, Dumbo, you'll lead the charge. Charge!
So after splashing the elephants with speed and strength, they charged in and battled the infected gorillas. Gerald, leading the zebras, began to clash with the infected hyenas. And Rafiki with the monkeys clashed with the infected cheetahs. With the armies duking it out, I dashed over to the front door of the factory and using the lab key unlocked the front door. I quickly ran inside and saw Caesar at the back of the factory, and he had Gerald trapped in a chamber behind him.
Your son has proven to be a nuisance, Gerald. I'm amazed your bloodline is capable of such a feat.
Gerald? Hey, let him out of there!
Son, cheese it! If you can get me out, I can cure the animals!
This will be the last look at your father before I reform my savannah and destroy your family.
Caesar then jabbed the mutation serum into his arm and became infected by the serum. Caesar then sprinted forward and the battle had begun. I used my super kick to kick back Caesar, but Caesar had his own poison attacks and used a slam ability on me. It did a ton of damage, forcing me to use tribal leaves to heal back up. I continued to kick Caesar over and over and used my screech ability to try and knock him back. I then got poisoned again and kicked back Caesar, and he started running back to the chamber. He then flicked the lever, causing potions to rain down on Gerald. Gerald had then morphed into a giant hydra and easily broke out of the chamber.
If I can't kill you, so be it. You'll just have to die at the hands of your own father.
Before Caesar could continue, Gerald the Hydra killed Caesar.
Gerald, it's me, your son.
With Gerald completely out of his senses, I was forced to fight him. I used my screech ability to knock him back, but got knocked into the air by his tail whip. I tried using my kicks to do damage, and while slowly chipping away, Gerald the Hydra shot out a hyper beam of poison. Luckily, the tribal leaves I had brought me back to full HP, and I continued trying to do as much damage as I could. I used my dash ability to continue creating space, but all of a sudden, the Hydra Gerald shot out poisonous clouds. It was doing a ton of damage, forcing me to use even more tribal leaves. I continued doing as much damage as I could with my kicks, and eventually, after a few more hits, I had defeated Hydra Gerald, and he then morphed back into his normal self.
Gerald, are you all right?
You did it, son!
Gerald, you said you could cure the animals, right?
Yes, I can. There's just enough antidote for the ones out there. We can use Caesar's factory to mass produce it if we need more.
How did you make it?
The baobab trees. They're the key ingredient to my recipe. Take it. Cure them all. I've got to rest here. I'm exhausted.
I will, don't worry.
So with Gerald's antidote, I ran outside so the battle's still raging on, and started quickly splashing the antidote on the mutated animals. After splashing the antidote on all of them, the animals had returned to normal, and the raging war had finally stopped. With Caesar defeated and the animals returned to normal, the savannah was saved. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I hope you all have a great day.